Honor Flow Productions.
Yo.
Yes.
What up?
Yes,
What up?
yes.
What up?
Thanks so much for you guys
What up,
coming
world?
through. And so one of the questions that I wanted to start off was, where did that name come from?
All
Honor
right.
Flow Productions.
Do you want the short version or the long version?
Origin story.
Whatever you want to give.
Yo, man.
So-
Backstory.
Good, So the story of HFP. So the name came up. This is 2003. I had just gotten my first pair of turntables, starting to do gigs, and at the time I moved into a new house with my family. And another friend of mine was also a DJ. Shouts out to DJ Kryptonite. He was going by DJ Dre at the time. We were throwing a party. And I just didn't want to be, at the time it was just DJ Chuck. The old soul wasn't even, that nickname wasn't even there yet. And, I didn't want to sing plain like DJ Chuck, DJ Dre. I wanted something with some pizzazz with it. So I was in the middle of Mass. I was an altar server. And I was sitting there during the homily daydreaming going, yo, I got to think of a name. I got to think of a name for this company, this, how are we going to do this? So I came down to two names. For any Metal Gear Solid fans, it was almost Foxhound Productions. I don't know if you know, of course, that was the gang that was going against Snake. He was a part of. But the name Honor Flow came about because I wanted something that represent, what we do, what we wanted to represent. I know, right?
Yeah.
We got sued. I was like, nah, we're going to get sued for that. And I wanted a name that represented what we're going to do. That's high caliber and excellence in whatever we do, whether it be music, DJing, or whatever we decide to do. So like an honor roll student, it's Honor Flow. So that's where the name came from. That's why the logo is the graduates, we call them, with the cap and the hat and everything. So
Yeah.
that's where the name came from.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks so much for that, because it was interesting to me. It's like Honor Flow Productions. It kind of seems like even like your guys' personality altogether, you hold yourselves really high to a high standard, very nice, easygoing personalities.
Right.
And that's, I think, super important, and also reflects in the name of your in your band, Honor Flow Productions. There's a lot of honor to be had when you are living a life that you feel is like purposeful,
Right.
and
Absolutely.
you know what I'm saying.
No,
Right.
I got you. It's like you're living life intentionally. That's
You're
what
living
doing.
life intentionally, and I can tell from the content that you guys put out and the music that you guys are putting out, it's not typical stuff that you're finding on the radio today,
Right.
where you're gonna hear like "bust down, Tatiana, bust down."
but man, does that but there's a time and place for everything, man.
Of
You know
course,
what I mean?
I love
There
that.
is.
I was spun that at a club on Friday. Boy, did that go off.
I love that
That
City
ru-
Girls song, Twerk. That's like my.
But it's sometimes you need McDonald's and sometimes you need soul food. You need a little balance of everything,
Yep.
man. Life is balanced to us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know?
and that's important. When did you start to embrace the balanced life, right? Because it's so easy to go in either one direction or the other, and I have been suffering with this personally for the past month, and just kind of like eating McDonald's and not eating enough like soul food, quote unquote.
Right.
So when it comes to balance, what are you guys' thoughts on living a balanced life?
Still trying to figure it out.
Yeah. And I think in terms of the music itself, when I was coming up, I had really bad hearing. I had to go through speech therapy to learn how to talk, and I didn't learn how to do it until I was about 5 years old.
Wow.
I was born with about 60% hearing loss in 1 year and then 75 in the other. And, with that being said, there was Dr. Seuss books everywhere, and there were Dr. Seuss posters everywhere. And there was one, that said, if you want to be number one, you got to be odd, or you can't be afraid to be odd. Now,
Sure.
I'm kind of butchering the quote, but, with that, it's just, just having the courage to be yourself. And, a lot of times, you are going to be, the only one, and it's, it's the courage just to keep continuing. And with us, we just never, we never try to be anyone else but ourselves.
I get
And
that.
I think with this album, because we are the original songwriters. I write all my lyrics. DJ Chuck the Old Soul writes all of his. We're not trying to be anyone but ourselves, and I think everyone loves us because of it. So, yeah, it's just being ourselves.
Yeah, it's a rarity today when you find people who are living in their originality, right? Because if you think about it, everything that we do is compiled from stuff that we know, stuff that we learn, stuff that we see. But then you try to figure out what is the little part that exists authentically, that is Chuck, or that is Paul, or that is Lord. Because so much of it is from what I get, even like this podcast, a lot of it stemmed from the Joe Rogan podcast. I've seen
Right.
the mics, seen the headphones, I've seen the style, the swag and all that, but trying to like create an authentic piece of that with that as a reference to learn from people who are already doing it, I think is something that is super, super important, because I feel like all of us have some type of unique thing,
Absolutely.
talent, gift
Sure.
Yeah.
that needs to be brought to the surface.
I believe it. I mean, how many times have we heard, or we've even spoke about in previous podcasts, self-care, self-love. It's all about fixing yourself. It's all about always constantly challenging yourself, trying to be the better person that you were yesterday, better than you are today and tomorrow. And I believe it's like you just gotta like, it's like iron sharpens steel. It's just like practice, and I can relate to that to Djing. Chuck can relate that. Also, Paul, being a martial artist, eliminate,
Hype.
MC eliminate. And basically, when it comes down to it, it's like,
Thank
you know, if you practice, it's like, even if it's just like let's say whether it be a scratch or whether it's just a mix or if it's juggling two records, and if it doesn't matter if it's just that one particular thing you're doing, but if you're doing it constantly every hour by the hour, and you're like focusing on your craft, focusing on your art, that also leads into like, also because you're focused on your hobbies, you're focused on what you want to get out of life, and then you're going to focus and find other human individuals who also spark
Right.
and ignite that, you know, that passion in you. And I
Yeah.
believe like souls, they gravitate towards each other. And if you notice, it's like as we get older, our circle just gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, until the point where it's like, these are actually the only guys I really want to hang out with, and everybody else that, you know, I hang out or work with on a regular. But you kind of like, you make that choice, you make that calculated choice. And the one thing you have to be is like, you have to be courageous. You have to be not afraid to speak your mind. And it's kind of like when you had mentioned the Joe Rogan podcast, it's kind of like the example of how, like, you know, in his interviews, he doesn't personally attack the person. Like if he says like he doesn't agree with it, he only disagrees with the words
idea.
and the actions and the idea of that person, but not the person personally. Because you and I can have, you know, a difference in thought, different belief systems in religion or outlook in life and perspective, but we respect each other enough that it's a discussion.
Right.
It's not as much as a debate. We just try to figure out where we can find the middle ground, or we just agree to disagree, but end of the day, we still love you. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
that's the one thing you have to take into consideration too.
Yeah.
And just being cognizant of your thoughts, your words, because whatever you speak goes into existence as well.
Right.
And your actions.
Right.
Balance is everything, and I think we're also trying to answer your initial question. I think we're also trying to figure that out. I'm still trying to figure that out. It's a constant. I don't want to say battle, but it's definitely a constant thing you're trying to figure out. And I think where I've tried to get better at, and we try to get better at it, is making time for the things you love to do. You know what I mean? I think that's what it comes down to. You only have so many hours in a day, only so much time in a day. Where do your priorities and passions lie? And the older you, we spoke with some high school kids last Saturday. We were it's a young man's leadership conference for the school district, for the LA school district. And the one thing, you know, at that age you would hear, go to college, get a good job, you know, make a lot of money. But there's something I think we're not teaching a lot of people from that age. I got it somewhat, we all did, but I don't think some kids don't get it enough, where follow your passion, the paper's going to come. Like we probably look, if you find something you love to do, you'll be able to turn it into some income.
Yeah.
But your heart has to be in it first.
Sure.
Because we can attest, we know friends of ours who have exceeded us in the educational field, but they're working jobs they absolutely hate.
Yeah.
They're miserable.
And there's a term for that. It's called the golden handcuffs. It's like, you know, we were taught, you know, being of a Filipino background, there was only 3 occupations you were going to do. You're going to be a doctor, lawyer, or nurse. If anything else, nothing else matters. And sometimes I feel like within our community, we feel the brunt of that. Like, you haven't amount to anything. Like, you could be a CEO of your own business. You can have your own restaurant. You could have your one of the dopest clothing lines out there, but it don't mean nothing to the elders, because only their understanding of what success is being a doctor, being a lawyer, a nurse, et cetera, whatever that may be in their definition based on that generation outlook.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that because this actual conference was in our alma mater, was in LMU. And a lot of the things that these kids were given, they were given information, but then also at the same time, you know, Chuck, after our performance, straight up just blurted and says, yes, there is information, but there is also misinformation. So question information.
I think
I don't know if that went over
the
too
mood
well.
kind of changed after that.
The exact words, like, what did you say? Like, Chuck went all Kanye on him. I was like, wasn't that?
Chuck didn't go Kanye. This guy went straight up Marcus Garvey. Like, this guy was like militant. Like, where did this guy come out of nowhere?
All I said was,
we're honor flow, not dead press.
At the end of the performance, all I said was, look, if there's a lot of game being taught up here, I want to make sure I remember exactly what I said. I said, a lot of game being taught up here. So this is the best thing we could tell you. Do what you love what you do. You know, make sure you enjoy it. You enjoy what you do with the people. Do it with the people who enjoy. Seek information. Question, and I emphasize this, question information. I said it twice. And then apply it. That's some very important life information that you should be getting at a very young age. Yeah. And any elders are getting mad at us telling us about that, then that's on them. Well, critical thinking is part of life, and the sooner you learn that, the better. And that goes back to you asking about balance. Balance is, you know, taking things from, take information from multiple sources and figuring out how to apply this to my own life. That's balance. And I think there's a search. That's what our album, The Black Odyssey, is. We talked about the concept being about finding personal freedom. Within personal freedom is balance. You know, how do you balance a successful career with a love life or your family? Or you got to make time. It's like, how do you balance at that time to be, you know, when you're creative, you got to make time to have fun and kind of clear your brain. Because without it, the creativity is gonna suffer. You have to stop at a certain point. Like, I don't believe in that shit or talking about no days off. That's a bunch of bullshit. Excuse my language, but
no, but it's common sense.
It's
common sense.
Virgin ears.
How dare you, Chuck?
No, but it's common sense. I mean, it's common sense. We can applying it to like a workout, and Paul we can actually add on to this. If you work out, the number one thing is. The key thing to a good workout and to see the great results is, one, diet, because that's pretty much 85% of the workout. And second of all, you have to rest because you have to let the muscles rest. Now, this whole talk of like no days off, you know, like just constantly working and working and working. But what are you working towards?
Right.
You know?
Right. It's like you're a rodent on a wheel.
You know, there's more to life. You know, that's what it, boils down to.
Absolutely.
I mean, and, I think that goes into balance. Like, yeah, sure, you got to... you got to work to eat. You got to work to, keep the lights on and get your bills paid. But, you can't lose yourself in, taking time to smell the roses. Sure. And there's got to be more to life, or I believe there's more to life than going to a job for 40 years and then dying.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept.
Only for someone else to have to do it, after you. Right.
That's an interesting concept. Though, I've been thinking lately, what is the purpose that money brings you, right? Well, it's in my mind, to improve the quality of your life to improve the quality of your life. And I think that's what it comes down to, is getting the best quality of life. So how do you do that? For one, I was thinking about it, is health. Because if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. You can't really do anything. Second and third, you could interchange them, whatever, is relationships and money. Right. So a lot of people are grinding, hustling, and going after the money because they believe it's going to improve the quality of their life. And this is true. It could put a nice roof over your head. It could get you things that you want. You could support your parents. You could support your children. You could support your siblings, whatever it is. Give back to the community. Now, it's a fine line when you start working in order just to attain money and live this material life, right?
Yeah, right. No, definitely. Yeah, and I think with that, I think it's important to recognize the distinction between opportunity and value. So money, it creates a lot of opportunities, but in terms of value, that's something that we determine for ourselves. So yeah, the most precious thing that you have in this world is time, and if you're lucky or blessed, depending on your metaphysical beliefs, you only get a few decades if you're lucky. Right. So it's finding meaning in what you're doing, and hopefully you have enough opportunities to, smell the roses and have a good quality of life.
Sure.
And the funniest thing is, this past year I've experienced that the most. I worked for a Fortune 500 company. I won't say on the record who, but it's definitely one of the most influential and powerful companies in the world. Both of y'all just acting up. And the job from a financial standpoint was the most I've made in that field, and like Eliminate just said, it afforded us, some opportunity to get some things, with the record going and get the company together, and but at the same time, I had never been more stressed out. I had I thought it was a slight heart attack scare, but it wasn't it, but it was just mad stress. But I'd never been that sick before. I'd never been that stressed before. I'd never been that miserable before. And I had made professionally the most money I've ever made in my life. And I was like, where does this balance out here? And that's when it, so you saying this is hitting home for me, because I experienced this in the past year. Like, where do you find that balance line? I have money. I have this, this kind of insurance now. It's funny. Like, I finally had insurance for the first time in my life as an adult by myself. And now I'm going in the hospital more than ever. Ain't that a bitch, man?
Irony.
I don't. It doesn't make any sense.
It's the irony of it all.
So to answer your, this links back to balance. You start to figure out what's important to you. Your mental health, your physical health, and how do you find that balance between making a living and also being in a great place. Mentally, spiritually, emotionally.
Right.
And it's not everybody can afford to do that, unfortunately, sometimes. Like, I'll just say it straight out, especially for Lord and I, not everybody has the guts to be business owners. It's just not for everybody. No. It's not that anybody can do anything in their lives, and not everybody wants to go through the struggles of that.
Well, it's that fear that's that roadblock. Because Chuck and I can actually relate, because we're both entrepreneurs, but then I also keep a day job. I'm also a paralegal and legal assistant during the day, and at night we do the music, or I'm DJing somewhere else. Now, it hits home to me with the whole finding the balance between the two, because it's two separate worlds. It's literally two different universes. It's basically a parallel dimension between me doing law, and then that's the mask I wear, and me going to court, with the attorney I work with, filing paperwork, helping out people, and I'm still giving back to the community. But at the same time, it's not the same thing as doing the music and being able to express yourself creatively and artistically, because I think that's the one thing people lack, is the ability, or even if they don't have the luxury, is find something to do that turns that all off. Because it's not always about your career, because how many times have we heard friends, relatives, and I mean, I can relate with my own blood relatives, cousins who are nurses who work 3 16-hour shifts, and they have 3-4 kids. Now you ask yourself, how do they spend time with their kids? How do they make time? You're making all this money, you're providing a really great life for them, but then at the expense of family time, at the expense of seeing your children grow. And I've spoken to my cousins about that, and they said, it's a matter of just finding the balance between the two, and you figure it out. Everyone is still figuring it out. It's us adults, we're still adults, but in actuality, I think we're just really big kids, just still trying to figure it out. You know what I mean?
Kids having kids.
Nobody grows up having it all figured out. When you get married and you have kids, you don't have it all figured out. You figure it on the fly. I mean, it's just kind of when we produce the music. It's like when we're doing our DJing gigs. It's all out of improvisation, and just a matter of experience being your best teacher that can help you throughout those courses in life.
It's crazy. The older you get, you realize your parents are still trying to figure it out. Yeah. You think, when you're a kid, your parents got all the answers.
They do.
And then when you get older, you're like, yo, they're still trying to figure it out. So it doesn't make you feel half as bad as you are. But the thing that scared me the most, so I was talking about working there, and I know everyone can attest to this. You ever worked at a job for a minute, close your eyes, and you've been there 6 months? Then it's a year.
Oh, man, all the time.
Yo, that scared the living hell out of me. I was like, because I was only there for a year, I feel like I put my head down, closed my eyes. I'm like, Jesus, it's been 5 months, it's been 6 months. And it's really easy to get caught up in a job and be there 20 years, and boom, your life is that's it. So that scared the hell out of me and made me really put things in perspective. We've always been about making this happen, but I think it definitely kicked specifically me in the ass to make sure any extra time I have, I'm not at this place, it needs to go into the music. And I think we're in a great position right now, man. Yeah. We've all put in a lot, especially this past year has been very productive.
Yeah, that's really beautiful to hear that you found out that you weren't feeling good. So are you continuing to work at the same page?
I left.
Yeah.
I left there a while ago, a couple months back. It just came ahead, and it was just time. Not to get too much into specifics, but it was just time.
Yeah.
And
well, good for you, man.
it was. I think I said it was perfect timing, and it was just time to make a move. But I learned a lot. I gained a lot, and a lot of what I've gotten out of that experience has gone to what we do, without question.
Yeah.
I think one thing that is super important, because there's a lot of negative energy when it comes to making money, when it comes to making money at a sacrifice. But I always think, like, would you rather be like poor and then have like a lot of love and good relationships and support and friendships and like a social connection, or would you rather be like really rich and have a fucked up like love situation, family situation? But they don't necessarily have to be, juxtaposed.
It's not one or the other.
Yeah.
Once again, going back to balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think with balance, it's something you're always constantly working on. It's never balance is never a destination. It's always a journey. Like, so it's always going to be more balanced on certain days than others. And with society, I think part of the problem is that it teaches you to play it safe. It teaches you to only focus on
super safe.
Get a job,
be
work
secure,
it for 40
get
years,
married,
have kids,
so
buy
they
that
can
take
house.
care of you, and then die.
Yeah.
That's it. And that's the thing. Like, what, like, I think Jim Carrey had like he was talking to a college for a commencement speech about it, and he said, the question "what if" has ruined and stopped like so many things from getting off the ground. The idea that, oh man, well, I mean, yeah, sure, I'm passionate about something, but what if it doesn't work out? Let me go for the sure thing, the safe thing, and as a result, the courage, to be me, truly who I am, and express myself honestly, it's been stifled from this profession, and now I define myself based on the profession and title I have.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, and that story, like, I think it's one of the best things I've ever seen on YouTube. On YouTube or Instagram.
Yeah.
He had told the story about he felt like his father was funnier than him. And he played it safe, and his father was an accountant, if I remember correctly. And he was fired from a job he put 15, 20 years at. And at one point, they were homeless in Canada, living out of their car. So that really gave him the drive to say, well, my father failed. I don't want to butcher the quote, but it went something like, if I wasn't half as afraid as my father, if my father wasn't half as afraid, what he could have accomplished. So he took that to his own life. Like, if I'm not half as afraid, what can I accomplish? And we all know how Jim Carrey turned out, man. Who knew he was such a dope painter, man? Though
Exactly. And I think with me, as far as a day job goes, I'm a professional video game tester. Oh, wow. I've worked on some of the biggest games in the industry. So like
oh, cool.
So like, I mean, on one part, yeah, I'm doing something I've always wanted to do, but the higher you go, like the more successful the company, the more is asked of you. And it got to a point where, there were some times I just didn't want to play games. Like, the thing that like I had always wanted to get into, I got burnt out because I got so focused on, trying to be able to stay, trying to, get in good with the company. It just, for a second I was losing myself, but then I had to step back and just say, I love me, and I got to check in with myself. Yeah. And, I got to leave work at work. Yeah. I got to, when work has to be in my rear view, and it's got to stay there.
Gotcha.
That was one thing at the past job. I just would not install the work emails on my phone. I would say, It's like, nope.
My job, they try to get on me about that too. Like, my manager straight up said like, oh, well, you can check like, what I sent you, like, at home. And I was like, oh, I never check company emails at home. Yeah. She's like, you don't? And I was like, why would I? I was like, should I be getting overtime for this?
Yeah. Isn't that an interesting concept? Because I see the director of the organization that I work in, he has to answer phone calls after work, answer emails. And I think that just kind of comes with the position. Once you start, like you said, getting higher up in the organization, they want you to be more ingrained, like on call all the time. And I talked to him, and I'm like, dude, I don't get how you do it. He's like, yeah, man, I'm up at like 2 a.m. Something's on my mind. I'm wondering if I'm missing out on an email. So it's again a fine balance of how you figure it out on the go in order to make the best quality for your life. But something that we were talking about just a little while ago is like, okay, so there's things and gifts and hobbies and interests that we all have and that we all want to pursue, but we also gotta pay the bills.
Right.
So it's a fine balance between like paying the bills and then, like you said, Lord, like it's two parallel universes. One, you got the legal mask on, and then two, you're doing your DJing at night, and it's a totally different world. But I think something that Gary Vee says, and a lot of successful people is like, man, just go all in, dive all in. But fuck, man, how am I going to support myself when I'm diving all into a profession that maybe barely pays the bills, or you're not earning enough income?
It never pays the bills. Let's just keep that 100.
Sustain and support your lifestyle. So it's goddamn, it's weird, because I feel and hear stories that the people that go all in, they take the chance, not being safe.
Yeah.
And then damn, shit pops for them because they've been putting in the reps, they've been putting in the practice.
But with that said, it's timing and when you dive in. I worked in commercial radio for 5 years, and I knew it was time. I'd done everything I can at that point, and I wanted to do something different. I wanted to go all in what we're doing, but I couldn't have done that, one, without the experience, and two, without saving. Like, timing is everything. You got to know when you eventually have to take the dive, but you got to know when to take the dive. If you take the dive at the wrong time, you could be right back at another gig you don't like.
Right.
So it's all about timing and planning it out. So I think what people misunderstand about that is, before you take that dive, there's a lot of contemplation, there's a lot of discernment, there's a lot of planning.
Discernment.
You cannot be spurred of the moment with that, or you'll fall flat on your face. It is a little bit, not a little bit, it's a lot of free falling, but you're going to have some type of, some kind of cushioning of how you're going to plan this out, and everything else, you're kind of just flying by the seat of your pants. But you're right. What they don't see is the 10 plus years of work it puts in before it pops off. Because there's a long nights, long days.
It takes 10 years to be overnight success.
Yeah.
And it's true. And then sometimes it's not even just the music that supplements it, not even the DJing getting supplemented. In actuality, it's like you have to have multiple streams of income. That's just keeping that 100. And like the key word that Chuck had mentioned was discernment. And sometimes, like, just to quote Warren Buffett, is like, if your money is not working for you while you're asleep, you're going to be working for the rest of your life.
That's real.
And so with that said, I was taught that at a very young age, where it's like, if you're going to have an investment, and if you're going to be making sure that if it's a profession, whether it's an investment that you're doing, for example, like between me and Chuck, we've had this conversation on multiple occasions about us DJing, and our parents told us the same thing. The only reason why we're buying this equipment for you, only because we want to give you your start, because we know you can make a life's earning out of this.
Yep.
And until to this day, when I'm like if I'm like a few $100s short and I need to pay some bills, hell, I'll like contact some people. And it's a matter of like, it's not just what you know, it's also who you know too. It's all a matter of networking as well. And a lot of this is actually just reflecting back on that talk that we did last Saturday at LMU. And we had to tell these kids, and we had to be real with them. We had to tell them the exact cost of how much it is to go to LMU in the first place. Because what I didn't like, not to put them down, but at the same time, I just don't like the emphasis of it was always about money. But here's the thing. It's like money does make your life a lot easier. And you had mentioned that earlier. And the thing is, like, once you feel like you've, secure like a financial cushion, which is what Chuck was talking about, like investments and just, rolling the dice, taking the fall. And sometimes you got to fall so many times. There's that Japanese saying where it's like, you fall down 7, get up 8. You know what I mean? And that to me, it's like life is like probably the best, like, teacher, and it humbles you. And that's the one thing too, is like the one thing that I've learned, and I'm turning 36 this year in March, and I'm still young. I'm not that old yet. I'm still learning myself. But at the same time, I've learned the one thing it is to be in this life. And if you really want to get what you want, you really have to work your ass off. Yep. But you also have to remain humble. Like, remain humble in what you do. You could be the best. But if you feel like you're at your best and you've peaked out in your career, or like, especially for me as a DJ, and I'm still constantly learning stuff, I never feel like I'm worthy. I never feel like I'm better. I'm always feel like I'm always knowing that I have to constantly learn. And no matter how many times people was like, yo, that was a dope set, man, that was an awesome blend, how'd you scratch that, blah blah blah.
But you still thinking about the transition you made.
I was like, do you know how hot I got and how sweaty I got while I was on that booth? Because it's how many painstaking hours just creating that transition, or just making that blend, or just it's like it's hours upon hours. And you see the greats do it when they juggle 2 records. Yeah, they're just juggling 2 records, they're going back and forth. But do you know how many painstakingly hours it took them to finally perfect it?
Yeah.
Because nobody sees that part. They just see the glamour, the glitz, and the glory, but they don't see the hard work that us 3 put in for HFP. Yeah. It'll be my 10th year come September with these guys.
Wow. Yeah.
So
that's really cool.
Seems like yesterday, man.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Right. And also, we're our harshest critics. You know, we'll you know, someone comes and say, yo, that was a tight set. And like, I this is a funny story. I remember Laura and I had spun a wedding a couple months back, and we had killed it the entire night, but we ended up playing a record that the bride and groom wanted to play at the end of the night. It didn't go over so well, but we put on something else to make up for it. We had a perfect night, but all we kept thinking about for a week was, damn it, why did we play that?
No, because it was at the request at the wedding. We're not gonna say your name.
No, it's all love.
But but we're just gonna. It was because out of the request of the bride, she was like, I want you to end it on this, and I want to do this. I'm gonna do this with the crowd. They're gonna get it.
Gotcha.
And we were like, yo, we were on a good one, like clean transitions. And then if you guys have never seen how Chuck and I perform, and when we DJ, we go back and forth like that pump.
HFP.
Like, some cats will be like, okay, I'm gonna do my set. He does his set. Blah blah blah. It's like, no, if I got something going on and I mean give him like the look, the heads up, yo, I'm gonna throw this on real quick. He's like, Chuck's is like,
gotcha.
It's a lot of nonverbal communication.
Yes, it's like that's how you know you have that like that's the one thing too. It's important it's the people you keep within your circle. It has to do a lot with faith, but it also has to do with trust and loyalty. And it's just that even me, we can do a wedding and not even speak to each other because maybe for some reason the universe decided to take our voices away. But we'll just give each other like social cues or just like nods and be like,
cool.
yo,
happens on stage with the 3 of us
all the time.
Yeah.
We've done this. That's the funny part. Like, we've done this so long, but we're still very, very much shows coming up. When are we practicing? We were just talking about it in the car on the way over here. When are we practicing? We may know these songs like the back of our hand. We may know routines, but we're always like, let's switch this up. Let's try this. Let's try that. We are always trying to better ourselves and master ourselves. And even though how many props we've gotten, we take a lot of pride in our live show. And I believe that's the one thing that helps us get over is our live show. But even with all those props, we're like, we can do that part better. Or maybe let's try this. It's a never-ending quest to get better at your craft. And to go back to where you're talking about, you know, those emails at 2 a.m. I don't mind working at 2 a.m. on this. It's passion, it's love, and it's a commitment to it. And then taking that dive, I just want to go back to that real quick. It's all about joy and gut feeling. It's hard to describe to people about faith, regardless of what your religious or spiritual backgrounds are. But to take a leap of faith and trust your gut instinct, I've never, ever made a bad decision when I trusted my gut. And I know Lord and Lemonade can attest to that. If you listen to your gut, you're going to make the right decision. And I think as long as you listen to your gut and you never let anybody steal your joy, that's something that can happen the older you get. You're going to find, you know, what you love. As a matter of fact, I spun a 60th birthday party last night. And one of the gentlemen on the mic said,
gumbos and tacos.
Man, they had gumbos and tacos as that's
like
one of my
food,
favorite
obviously.
things in the world. But one of the gentlemen on the mic said there was that old Mark Twain quote: "The 2 most important days of your life is the day you're born and the day you figure out why."
I love that one.
That's a bar on top of a bar on top of a bar.
Mark Twain, man.
You know, and it's true.
Shout out.
Purpose. It's all about purpose and enjoying that purpose. Sometimes people know it early on, and it takes longer for some people. That's fine. But the most important thing is you're on the journey to figure it out. So that's when people are like, careers, like, I don't know what I'll do in my life. I said, that's fine. But the point is, you're figuring it out. People that don't care are the ones in trouble. But if you're constantly on the road trying to figure yourself out, figure out what you're trying to do, then it's all good. That's part of your journey.
And even shout outs to the people who are listening, who have families and who have, they went for the safe route. It's never too late. Yeah, that's the one thing that people always feel like they're on a timeline for some reason, like they're on the clock. No one's watching you. No one's like clocking your hours, how many times you came in today, how many hours you did this week. It doesn't matter. Now, to quote Albert Einstein, time is only relative. Time is never like defined. Like, the concept of time is like linear, because the idea that you're always like, it's like when we were growing up after high school, what did they tell you? Go to college. Go to college, get a good job. You can get a good job, make good money. Oh, how's your girlfriend? Oh, you still with her? You should marry her. Have a kid. Maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 4. Who cares?
Nope.
That was the plan. Like, that was, that's what my parents instilled in me. And I'm like, until to this day, I've never been married. Never had a baby. No baby mama drama, thank God. I've gone through this life not having that, which is great, because I always believe, and when me and Chuck met for the first time, I always told him, because he was always asking me, he's like, oh, how come you're like, we get to that conversation, like, oh, how come you're not in a relationship? How come you don't have a girlfriend? Or at least the girlfriends that I know they're not consistent. I was like, do you know what's more important to me than any of those things? Marriage, kids, that, picket fence, white picket fence life is the hustle. If anything, I'm married to the hustle. And that's the one thing I will choose over anyone. You have to be someone super extra special for me to grab my attention, because we've been in all those different kinds of relationships that either benefited or did not benefit.
Gotcha.
And sometimes the best relationships will catapult you to the moon, or the other one will set you back.
Right.
So it really comes down to discernment. And that's what I believe. And now it's like, with life experiences, you have to understand, like, it's what I would actually want Chuck to say this. Be careful who you.
Oh yeah. In this business, be careful how you talk to people. Be careful who you date. Oh yeah.
Say it.
Oh, all right.
Say
be
it.
Careful. It's like,
This is
Real
be
talk.
unsaid. Real say it.
I said, be careful.
Talk that sense.
Be careful who you talk to. Be careful who you fuck. That's
real.
It.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's important. I mean, if you fucking somebody,
He's like, say it.
Sign the NDA.
I'm like, this is the PG-13.
Sign the NDA.
yeah. I mean, that has real consequences, right? Sex.
It does.
Sign the NDA.
Well, that's a whole nother
does.
3-hour conversation, right?
Yeah, that's another whole podcast, bro. Like,
Sign the NDA.
Yeah. That's very, very important. So I mean, we'll close. I mean, the camera times are already done, but we're still recording right here.
Cool.
So we'll figure out a way to get this in and make it all work together.
Right,
but
right.
one thing that I wanted to ask you guys is, like, when did you guys first started getting into music, and like, why is music, DJing, performing, hip hop, lyric writing, creating that type of content important to you guys?
Yeah.
man, who should start?
I'll keep it like short and sweet. I grew up doing martial arts. I grew up, with karate. Like, I was never really all that tall, so I didn't get to play a lot of the, ball sports. So like combat was always my thing. And then, something that was such a big part of my life, kind of slowed down and essentially stopped once I got to college. I had to find another way to express myself. And, as, someone that's read I read every single Bruce Lee book. He was the person, and I studied philosophy for my degree. Bruce Lee's the first philosopher I read. That's what got me into philosophy. And he attributed martial arts as expressing yourself and expressing yourself honestly. The most honest moment you can ever have is when you've either defeated or been beaten by your opponent. You can't lie to yourself at that point. All the training that's been put into it, it's only expressed in that moment. So, once I stopped that, music was something I was always doing, but then I started really pouring myself more into my lyrics and into writing. And, I was really self-conscious when I met him because, during orientation, Chuck said that, oh, yeah, I do hip-hop, I make beats and stuff. So I didn't necessarily tell him right out the gate that, I'm a rapper. I kind of
not until a month later. Actually.
I kind of I was like, let me see what he has, and I was just like, okay, now it's time to come out with it. And then, the rest was history for me.
If I was making Laffy Taffy beats, man, this would have never happened, man.
No. I'd have been like, all right, man, peace.
So for long story short, music has always kind of been in the family. My grandmother has a master's in music. She actually sings on her album on a choir section. So music was always there. My sister plays bass. I played saxophone growing up. My dad played drums. My mom played in the school band, clarinet. I was making radio shows with double tape decks back in the day and always was ingrained in it. And I started writing raps as an expression, an outlet in junior high for 2 reasons. One, my parents were going through a divorce at the time, and I needed an outlet. I was just trying to find a way to express what I was going through. And 2, I was trying to impress the girls, man, because, you're at work, you're at school, and you hear someone being on the table.
Okay, clips.
Someone's grinding. So anyways, you're trying to impress the girls. You start rapping. So that was part of it. And I just grew more and more in love with the craft. And I just figured out something I just loved about it. It just gravitated towards me. Some people just like to rap for fun. And but it's just something about it gravitated towards me. That led to me DJing starting in high school. That made me leading to make beats, that getting equipment, figuring out how to record. It was all a snowball effect to where I'm like, Jesus, it's been 13 years and I've really started doing this. You never asked your question, how did I get here? How did it get to this point? And it's been a crazy journey to go from those bedroom days to meeting Lemonade at Marymount, in the early days of HFP, to meeting Lord at LMU, and then him joining the group. At one point, just to give a quick history, this group has been through a lot of different lineup changes. At one point, we looked at Wu-Tang. There were 7, 8 MCs, and that was the RZA that did the production. Then we looked like the Roots. We were a 8-piece band. And then it turned into the 3 of us as a trio. So it was very much a process of learning what works and what doesn't work and what's best for us. So, and I had this experience when spinning on Fridays. It was one of those good nights. Like, there was one of my college teachers said, there's things in your life you have to do, you want to do, and you have to do. And I feel like I have to do this. There's nothing else that makes me happier, that brings more joy.
Yeah.
And it is a calling. I don't know how else to put it, but it's when you understand purpose, it's just something you can't fully explain, and you just exude it in what you do. And right. I think that's the best short version of it I can give. It's something I have to do and I love doing. And one of the greatest compliments about our album I've gotten from people is sounds like you took time into making this. Because a lot of music can be disposable, but I think the records that we love that have sticked around for generations and generations
still being played.
I was playing Stevie Wonder last night. Everybody knows Stevie, even at the youngest, and those records came out in the 70s, 60s, 70s. How do you make timeless records? It's about really putting in the time and the effort and really learning your craft. So when people say, going back to the gumbo versus McDonald's argument we were talking about earlier, it's about really fine-tuning your craft and putting passion and love to it. And what you put out is what you get back.
And a little salt.
Truth.
A little bit.
Truth.
A little bit of seasoning in it too.
Truth.
Right.
Salt.
How about you, Lord?
All right. So my family also has a background in music as well too. My father was actually a drummer in a jazz disco band in the Philippines in the 70s. Oh, cool. And so my pops was like, his ultimate dream was to become just a musician. Like, he wanted to play. And the funny part is, his entire family were playing. Like, his siblings were in the band. His father, like my grandfather, was in the band. He was a sax player, and so was my grandmother. Now, that's what they did to feed themselves, because being poor in the Philippines, come through hell or high water, it's never enough. Whatever job position you have, that's what they had to do to make extra money. And that was my dad's dream, like, to be a drummer and just be a world-class drummer. It didn't even have to be with that band. It could have been with any band, but him and my mother, they're childhood sweethearts. They've been together since they're literally teenagers, like they're neighbors.
Wow.
And they've been together since. They've never been in any other relationships but that. But there was a time where they got married, they really focused and buckled down, and my mom had to go overseas for work because her dream was to move to the United States from the Philippines, and my dad had to stay back because he couldn't get his visa, but she did, because she was a traveling teacher at that time. So she first started in Spain, then she went to Canada, then here in the United States finally. Now, mind you, my parents got married in 1976. I was born in 1983. So we do the math. They waited about 5 or 6 years till they waited for me to be born.
That was like my grandparents with my mother.
Because my dad was like, he's like, all right, I'm going to work. But here was the thing, was like, now he was at a fork on the road. He could stay in the Philippines, continue as a musician, or just leave it all behind. And he had to, with every right reason to. And so finally, when they finally reunited, he was able to come to the States. You know, they finally had me. But music also played a vital role in my life, even from birth, because everyone always asks, like, oh, how'd you get the name Lord? And this is, I'm going to try to keep it as brief as possible, but this is the origin story to my name. So when my mom was giving birth to me, when she was, you know, having contractions, she said it took her 72 hours until I finally came out.
Wow. That's
But
a long time.
It was a long time. But see, when they got to the hospital, yeah, she was getting the contractions, she was getting all that. And then they just said that I went silent, like went dead.
Whoa.
And so the name actually comes from Lord, because our family is Filipino, so they're Catholic by default. Good Catholic family.
Gotcha.
Lord is
Amen.
from Lord Jesus Christ. Anthony, because it's actually Lord Anthony, Saint Anthony of Padua. That's our patron saint of our family. And my mom was like feeling lost, so she always prayed to him. You know, even in the Latin cultures, even they would say, they would ask Saint Anthony if they're lost, they can't find a parking space. That's who they prayed to. Now, I was non-responsive. My mom was non-responsive. She was like, what do I do? And so what ended up happening was the doctor was like, okay, you have a choice, you have a decision. What do you want to do? Do you want to get rid of the baby? Do you want to just, like, you know, have a cesarean, but he may not live? And so my mom was like, okay, I'm going to pray on it. And he prayed it with my dad. And then when it came down to it, my mom always knew the only way that I could be, like, activated, or basically the best way to, like, stimulate, was music. So my mom took the radio, asked for the doctor, is like, do you have a pair of headphones, or maybe there's a way we can have some music in here? So she prayed on it. She said, like, look, if you give my boy life, I'm going to name him after you and St. Anthony. And from that point on, you know, the nurse was, like, playing through the tuner and, you know, messing with the dial, you know, because back then they were, like, on FM dial, you one rotation.
Right.
So finally they got to a station, and that station was the song Earth, Wind, and Fire, September. And so right when that moment, that beginning guitar riff began, bass line hit, boom, heartbeat, I was ready to go.
Oh, wow.
So music
That's incredible.
literally saved my life. Thank you.
That's incredible.
And so from that point on, and there's other stories that I have about how I got into DJing. And DJing saved my life too, because, you know, like any families, you know, some of them are born into the gangs, and cousins were into gangs, they were involved, and then they were like, no, you're too smart for this. We don't want you doing it because you might actually excel.
Yeah.
That's what they told me. And I'm like, I didn't quite understood that, but then I was like, no, you're either going to do two things. You're either going to DJ, or you're going to work on cars, or whatever pursuits you have in education. Nothing else. If we catch you hanging out with these gangs, we're going to whoop your ass. It doesn't matter. No questions asked, because those are all the veteranos. We call them veteranos. They're like, nah, you are not about this life. We want you to do better. You know, God bless them, because, you know, some of them are either dead. Some of them are, like, you know, in jail, or, you know what? They turned around. They all became, guess what? Nurses, medical assistants, dental assistants. So that's how I got my route into the DJ life.
Gotcha.
And then from that point on, I still hung out with the gangsters, because my thing was a little bit more superficial. I was like, oh, I'm a DJ now? I can hang out with the girls. That was the whole thing.
Sweet.
That was it.
The OG is always good to get knowledge from, man. It's always fun, man.
Yeah.
And also, if you've ever hung around Lord's parents, you know, people talk goals. Like, no, they're really relationship goals. And the thing I love about his parents the most is when I'm hanging around his family is there's like two kids still. They'll cuddle up and crack, you know, like you're with someone special, you can crack inside jokes.
Yeah.
His parents are still like that to this day, man. And
even now.
Relationship
and
goals.
I love seeing that joy in his
Sweet.
folks, man,
Awesome.
and they're supportive of what we do, man. So
Yeah.
Shout out.
I mean, 76, so like how many years? 40-something years
That's
of
incredible.
marriage.
That's
But
incredible.
here's the thing that my parents always did, and why music has always been a big part of our lives, is that every morning when my mom would be making breakfast and my little sister, Lady Ashley, shout out to her. Yes, I have a sister named Lady, and I am Lord. And
say the name, damn it.
Lady Ashley Advincula. And,
Don't call him Anthony. Call him Lord.
Lord, yeah, because if you call me Anthony, I feel like I'm auditing
I
your
hate when people
paperwork.
do that.
He's like, no, your name's not Lord. It's like, yes, it is. Like, and I have to pull out the freaking California ID driver's license. Like, do you want my passport? Do you want like 3 forms of ID? Like, this is the Soviet Union. I can show it to you. But other than that, it's like my parents would always like, before we would go to school or before we do anything, they would always turn on the radio. My dad always had a mixtape or something. My dad had endless mixtapes from my mom.
His
Like,
dad's got moves, man.
oh yeah, and then my dad was like, he's like, and then one time it was, I just remember a distinct memory. Like my dad like just picked up the turntable and he was like, oh, I just got a turntable. He was like, yeah, but he's like, babe, guess what album I bought for you, huh? And then my dad does a whole like, it's like the Filipino Casanova with my mom. He's like, what are you doing? You're so annoying. That's my mom. And then she's like, and my dad's like, I bought that album Bread, Bread, I got that for you. And then he like opened it. It was a first generation. I don't know where he found this thing. And then he was like, he put on the record, it was that song If. And then like my dad looked at, he's like, Cat, come here, I'm going to grab your mother, but see that behind there? I'm like, what? I'm like, that's a mixer and another turntable. Happy birthday.
Sweet.
Wow.
And that's the turntable story. Like, and then my mom is like, but let me dance with your mother first.
That's very cool. That's very cool. When creating, like music is a very important role, I think, in everybody's life. I don't know anybody who just like, I don't like to listen to music.
And don't trust him either.
Yeah,
that's weird.
Those people are suspicious. It's the same thing that applies for people who do not like puppies, kittens, and food.
Oh, God.
Like, they're suspect. If they don't like food, nah, dude, we can't get along. I'm sorry.
But yeah, that's an interesting thing, man. It's like music, everybody enjoys listening to music. Whatever kind of music floats your boat, I mean, that's totally up to you. But there's something that, like emotion or a feeling that music provokes in people. And I know that when I'm feeling some type of way, specifically like sad or I need to get something out and express myself in a way, I play the guitar and I play the piano as well. And whenever I'm feeling that way, I always feel like I'm making the best music, that it just comes out really easy for me.
Right. No, definitely.
When you guys are creating music, when do you guys feel you're in a flow state? When do you guys feel like you are creating the best music? Because a lot of artists, they do it when, I don't know, they have a breakup or
certain artists,
No, like now I know for me, like, and I'm not like ashamed to say it, I was completely depressed like making this album, like, but the thing about this album, it was the thing that got me out of it. This was the beacon of light, at the end of a really dark ass tunnel. I was going to work feeling like shit, like, getting talked to crazy. And then, like, that was the thing, like, I look forward to, like, recording with DJ Chuck the Old Soul afterwards, like, and it was just like, yo, man, like, we're going to work on this, like, I got this beat, like, I've been working on, like, what do you think? And, that was the thing, like, it never really, like, we've been working on music for so long, like, we have a process that once we're together, the words, we didn't have anything, like, we may have had, like, a rhyme or two, like, we've, saved up, like, in the book, but, the words just, we find it, and we find out, what we want to talk about, and from there, we got a song. But, yeah, like, for me, like, comfort isn't good for my art, to quote Evidence, Dilated Peoples, or paraphrase. I mean, if I'm too comfortable, like, I'm not thinking about art like that. Like, art, for me, like, it comes from an emotional place. So whether, like, it's joy or elation to just fucking depression and, like, everything sucks, like Angel's Flight, like, was one song that, like, I think really, I had mapped out my depression, and then, like, initially the way I wrote the song, like, as I'm coming to, like, the end of my verse, like, I didn't initially have, like, a hopeful, place, like, it was going to end up, but I also had to, like, keep in mind, my listener, like, yeah, like, I just want to let you know, like, yeah, like, depression's real, you're going to feel it from time to time, but, just remember, this is these are thoughts, that I'm jotting on this page that's going to become a memory that captures me at a stage. It's not going to stay like that. So like, for me, like, this music has been, a way to like, really truly be me, and it really makes me fucking happy to do it. That's,
there's
that's the best way I could put it.
There's a saying that we go by, and it's what comes from the heart reaches the heart. And we do that with all of our music, whatever the emotion is. It has to be authentic. It has to be honest. These records are personal. These songs, not just this album, just there's a whole catalog. It's amazing I even said the word catalog, and there's more to come. That's wild,
man.
But
It's true though.
But what comes to the heart reaches the heart, man. If we honestly can't talk about something on record, we just won't talk about it. That's something that we'd agreed on with this particular album, with the Black Odyssey. There is times he was talking about his verse on Angel's Flight. There were certain places I felt like you had to bring, and this is working with any artist, you got to make them comfortable to bring themselves. Remember, they're vulnerable at this point. They're exposing themselves to not just you, the producer, but to the world. So you got to make them comfortable in looking at their lives and owning their truths and being honest with the listener. And like I said, the listeners love that. People appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And people will read if you're authentic about it or bullshitting them about it. So it's very important for us to be honest with ourselves, number one, and then once we're honest with ourselves, we can be honest with other people. And I think that comes across in our records. But yeah, the honest feeling that we get when we make music, and that's why we're not the group that's going to put out a record every year. We're just not that group, or that can continually turn out singles, because that's the model of the business right now.
Or mixtapes.
We are, or mixtapes, or whatever people we calling it these days. We are an album every 2-3 years, because that's just, we have to live. Like right now with this album out and us performing, from a recording standpoint, we're at a point where we're just trying to get better, and we're taking in ideas. We're picking up different instruments. We're going out experiencing new things. We need to refresh. We need to go build inspiration. Right. Like you said, we have to build inspiration to talk about what we're going to talk about next, because honestly, I have no idea. We have no idea. So whatever life's going to throw at us, that's going to be what the next record's going to be about.
But then again, we didn't have any idea what you guys were talking about either when we started Black Odyssey, and even as far back as Boombox Sketches.
Right.
Because when we made Boombox Sketches, which is an EP, before the Black Odyssey, this is right after the band broke up. And it was even to the point where we didn't even know like if it was still going to be around. If I just got back in the country. And he was in Tokyo for how many months?
Almost a year. I was in Japan teaching junior high school English for about 8 months, and I had to get my mind right. And
we all did. I think we all did. We all had to just kind of I think it was like we had to reset the button some way, somehow. Absolutely. And I think that's how it had to happen, because it's easier now when you have 3 people who are devoted to the craft, which is HFP, Honor Flow Productions. And not to say that we're taking away from all the musicians that we worked before, but, it was, life happened. That's the best way I can put it. Life happened to everybody. And there was 3 left. That's what it came down to, and we were the ones who wanted it most. Even to the point where we had that little, powwow meeting at Tel Taco and by LMU.
I think I got to give a quick, since you brought that up, I got to give a quick context. So at one point, it's hard to keep a large group together. If you ever worked in a group, regardless of whatever you're working on, times change, people change, priorities change, and it came to a head where things had to change, and there was conflict within the group, and I was going around trying to facilitate and meet with everybody and figure out what was going on, and particularly when I met with these two, we were at this Del Taco next to Sound Station Records in Westchester, just figuring it all out, and then I look back on it now. When it came to those powwows or situations where we're like, hey, we're going to go network at this place, come out, they were always there. We're going to go talk about this. I may talk to other members of the group on a certain situation later on, but when it came to let's get together, these two always showed up. So it always made sense. It makes sense more now that it was going to be the 3 of us. And when Eliminate went to Japan, I didn't know what this group was going to look like. I didn't know what we were going to sound like. We kept DJing, but I honestly didn't know. I knew I made a promise to myself that music would continue on, but I didn't know how or what it would sound like. Yeah. When he came back from Japan, and I've told this a couple times, I'm going to say it again publicly. Him coming back from Japan saved his group. It saved his group, and it put a new life into this group, and we needed to reset, as Lord just said earlier. And once he came back, That's when the process started. The concept of the Black Odyssey had been around for a while, but and it just grew from the idea of personal freedom because of the conversations I had with other people. And it's like, this is what our generation is going through right now. So it took a while to get there. And I'm not saying we're going to be Sade and drop an album every 10 years because that's just not going to happen. But
shout out to Sade, though.
I love you.
Adele's the new Sade in terms of putting out records. She'll put out a record.
Shout out to Adele too.
every 5 or
How
10
you
years.
doing?
But that's the thing. People wait for things like that because like Sade and Adele, and I'm not comparing ourselves to Sade and Adele. Let me just make that clear. I'm just saying people wait for what they have to say. It's important. Eliminate always says all the time, if you have easy access to something, it's not as special. You know, and these records are personal and they're special to us. So when people get excited when we do come out with something, and it's kind of turned into that, you know, that means a lot. So it's a quality. What's it going back to the name of what HIP is all about? It's about the quality and having the best possible record we can. So we're very proud of this album. It's out in the Black Odyssey, now available on all streaming services, CDs at ontheflowproductions.com. You got to get that shameless plug in there. No, it's not shameless. It's just what it is. We're proud of it, and it's from the heart, man. Actually, Marty, we have something for you.
Oh,
Yes, we do.
oh, nice.
We got you.
I gotta.
It's for you, bro.
Gotta grab this out
Cool, man. This is exciting. What do we got here?
Get this out of the bag real quick.
Yeah, and after this, we'll close as well. So while he's getting that, you guys have a show coming up, huh?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
Yes.
we can promote that.
Yes.
We have the HPT shirt
Dope,
for
dude.
this in the
bro.
conversation shirt.
Dope,
I was like,
dude.
I know I'm not
Thanks,
embarrassed. I
man.
know I put that in the bag. I'm not about to embarrass myself. Like, oh, I forgot the T-shirt at home.
Yes.
Man.
Thank you, sir. That's
Thanks so much. I
Th-
appreciate this.
thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us, bro.
Thank you.
And then you'll see the shirt on all the social medias that Marty's on Sport. It's on ontheflowproductions.com. Go in and get it. March 14th, Marvelous Moments in March. Faja Doodoo's, which is off of Adams, right next to Delicious Pizza. It's a lot of people on this. Just joined. Gavelin, Mahogany Jones. They're doing a Jay Dilla tribute
DJ.
as well with DJ Dub
Jay
Plates.
Dilla.
There's a lot going on with
Dang.
that show. So that's
Cool.
Thursday the 14th. Get tickets now. And make sure when you come see us, you see at the door, you're here to see On the Floor Productions. We want that credit, by the way.
Yes, we do that.
There it
And we
is.
got a lot of different other shows coming up. Some surprises. Some very cool things we're working on. We won't talk about publicly yet.
Inner Brewings.
But let's just say we're going to be out there a lot,
Very cool.
on the road a lot. We got some new music videos we're working on as well.
Yep.
So
Awesome.
if you don't remember anything we said, honorflowproductions.com.
There it is.
Come talk to us. Come see us.
All right, cool. Thank you guys so much. Very nice doing this.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you.
Arigato gozaimasu.
I know we taught your ear off, man, but it's but that's a tribute to you as an interviewer. If you ask the right questions out of somebody, you get long answers. That means you did a hell of a job, man. So Marty, thank you, man. Pleasure
Thank
to
you.
be here.
Thank you, bro.
All right, guys.
Peace.
Peace.
Soul clap salutes.
Later.
There it is.